At age 13, actually a couple weeks before I had my birthday, I was coming home from a Bar Mitzvah lesson and found our home locked and no one there.
Sam Weinreb wasn't even a teenager yet on that terrible day in March 1941 when he returned to his empty home in Bratislava, Czechoslovakia. He had narrowly missed the Nazi roundup of the Jews in Bratislava, who numbered nearly 15,000 people. They were expelled or sent to concentration camps where most perished.
That afternoon was the last time I ever saw or spoke to any member of my family.
Sam's neighbor and a kind stranger helped Sam escape into Hungary to be reunited with some family members.
I had grandparents living there in a very small town, and also an uncle who lived in Budapest, the capital of Hungary. He said to go to the town where my grandparents lived would be much too risky, and if I am caught there, not only I, but they too would be arrested for hiding a foreigner in their home. We decided to go to Budapest and located my uncle. I don't believe I will ever forget the look on his face when he saw me. He knew immediately that there was something wrong.
Sam stayed with his uncle for just a few short weeks before one of the neighbors reported a foreigner living in the home. Sam was sent to live with a distant relative on the outskirts of the city. Once again, a neighbor informed the police that Sam was hiding there.
I immediately got on the first streetcar back to the city. I had absolutely no idea where to go and what I was going to do. I knew that I could not get in touch with my uncle for fear that he would get in trouble. On the way to the city, I noticed a park and decided to get off and spend the night in that park. The next morning, I went into the city and started to look for some type of work. I stopped mostly at restaurants, offered to clean the place, wash dishes, and I told them that they would not have to pay me. All I really wanted was some food for the work I'd be doing. No one would hire me. The next 5 to 6 months, I lived outdoors on the streets of Budapest. Most of the time, sleeping behind a factory that was closed at night. During the day, I had the difficult job of trying to get some food. And believe me, that was not easy. There were days when I succeeded, which wasn't very often. On the days when I could not get any food anywhere, I usually checked garbage cans behind restaurants, hoping to find some food in those garbage cans. Can you just imagine what it is like to be only 13 years old and not having a home to go to, not knowing where you will sleep each night, not knowing where you will get your food each day, not being able to speak the language of the country that you're in, and be in constant fear?
After almost 6 months, Sam decided he could no longer go on. He turned himself in to the Hungarian police.
I thought, what could they possibly do to a 13-year-old kid whose only crime was he was born Jewish? How wrong I was to think that way. I did go to the police, told them everything about myself. I don't believe I finished that last sentence when I was slapped in my face by one of those officers and told, there's only one place you're going to, and that is straight to prison. I was put into a prison without even having a hearing, where I spent the next 2 years. While in that prison, I worked indoors, cleaning the place, scrubbing floors, and whatever was asked of me. They used to call me forward, took me into another room, and then asked me questions, and at that time, I didn't even know what they were saying to me. They spoke Hungarian to me. I had no idea what they were saying. And every time they slapped me in my face and kicked me and all that, I wound up on the floor, and while I was on the floor, they were kicking me, and every other word in Hungarian, "You stinking Jew."
After 2 years, Sam was released to his grandparents' custody.
I had to report to that local police department twice every week.
Sam was beaten every time he reported to the station. Then, a few months after his release, all the Jews in Hungary were picked up by the Nazis to be sent to concentration camps. The time was spring 1944.
The Germans entered Hungary, and all of us, all the Jewish people from that town, were picked up and taken to a nearby city. It was like a ghetto. And we stayed there only just 2-3 days. And then we were all put on a train into cattle cars, where we were sent to Auschwitz. There were soldiers with machine guns and dogs all over the place, making certain that no one escapes.
Life there was unbearable. Auschwitz-Birkenau was the largest of all the Nazi camps in Europe. The complex included a concentration and labor camp as well as a death camp.
We got up every day very early. We had no watches. We didn't know what time it really was, but I know it had to be very, very early in the morning. And we received a cup of black coffee and a slice of bread. That was our breakfast. Then for lunch, it was our big meal. We received a bowl of soup, and it consisted of maybe a little cabbage, potato peels, and whatever garbage they could put into that soup. But when you were as hungry as we were during that time, even that tasted good.
It wasn't just the hunger that the prisoners faced.
After being in Auschwitz just a few days, we had some visitors that came to the barrack that I stayed in, and I will never forget that. It was one officer and 2 of his soldiers. And he began by saying, "I want all of you to remember what I will be saying you now. Auschwitz is a concentration camp where people will work or be sent to the gas chambers. If you're strong enough and are able to work, you may survive. If you're not able and cannot work, you'll be sent to the gas chambers. The choice is yours." Then this officer looked around and he asked 2 of the men to come forward. He said to them, "I don't believe the 2 of you will be able to give us a good day's work," and shot both of them right on the spot. The only thing that kept me going was the hope that if I will survive, and that I had to survive in order to see my family again.
And Sam still keeps searching for the family he lost when he was just 13 years old.
A couple of years ago, I got a letter from the State Museum in Birkenau with the records of my father, and they were accurate records. And I couldn't understand, because they even gave me his name, where he was born, and how old he was, and they gave me the date of when he passed away, which was in July 22nd, 1942. So that's the only record I ever got from my family. The rest of them I never heard anything about.